Self-serving bias is seen every day and happens in places like the classroom, work, in relationships, and even in sports. So, what is self-serving bias?
My name is Erin McEwen, and I have been a counselor in a private practice for at least almost 25 years now. And I tend to see self-serving biases in many of my clients. Self-serving biases describe a human's tendency to take credit when good things happen and to place the blame on external forces when bad or negative things happen.
A time when something great happened to me and I took all of the credit would probably be recently when a couple of my friends that I put together, they got engaged, and I feel as if like I did that. So I'm like, whoop whoop, I did that, so they together.
Okay, we're done. Ready? 1, 2.
Perfect. I did so good.
Oh my god, that's more like it. I'm just perfect. I mean, I knew I could do it.
Whoa! Y'all are making me wobble! Whoa! That was all y'all's fault. Y'all weren't even level at all.
My dad actually has a really good example of this. In the 70s, when Jimmy Carter was president, my dad owned a motorcycle dealership, and he could have done a lot of things different owning the motorcycle dealership, where when Jimmy Carter took taxes and hiked them up to the point where no one wanted to buy motorcycles anymore because no one needs a motorcycle. People are going to prioritize things that aren't recreational, such as motorcycles and ATVs and such. So when that happened, his business pretty much died totally. But his big problem was that all of his motorcycles in the dealership he didn't own. He instead bought, frivolous things, nice cars, etc., instead of, paying off what he owed. And he's told me this story multiple times, and every time he blames it on Jimmy Carter. And recently, whenever I brought it up to him, like I was doing this video and needed some people to interview, he was blind to, he didn't know what self-serving bias was, what it meant, and that he even practiced it in his own life. And once I told him about what it meant and asked him if he could think of any examples in his life, which is really hard to do, I understand that. You can't, whenever you're 75 years old, it's hard to go back and think about all the things that you've done wrong or right. But he couldn't think of anything. And I always thought of this example because it just made me so angry, because he could have done so much better. And I have this in my own lives where I can do so much better, but I blame it on other people or other things when I need to take responsibility for my own actions and do better.
A time when something bad happened and I put the blame all on someone else was when I got scammed. I put all the blame on the scammer. I didn't own up to what I did, like, cause I gave them my information, so that was my fault. But instead of owning what I did and saying, actually taking, I put it on the scammer. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Our teacher literally told us that none of this was going to be on the test. I just don't understand it. He's the worst teacher ever. It's all his fault that I did this bad.
Let's say I get a test back and I'm really unhappy with how I did, right? A lot of people have that in college. And you get your test back and you're like, what happened? I have this horrible grade. And there's two things you do. You either accept that you didn't study enough, or you blame it on, let's say, the teacher or the test. The test was too hard. The test didn't have the right material on it. The teacher didn't teach us this stuff, etc. So you have all of these excuses as to why it's not your fault.
Okay, here we go. Honey, I'm sorry, they were all out of apple pie. Someone just got the last piece.
All right, look, here's the story. Well, we had just finished playing racquetball, and we were going to take a steam. I walk into the steam room, and it's really steamy. So I take off my glasses, and that's when it happened. Guys?
Over here. Have a seat, son.
Oh my God, Chandler, I can't believe it.
I know.
You gave my father a lap dance.
Why do they put so much steam in there?
If a person passes her driving test on the first try, who's to attribute that success?
The driver.
Now, if she was to fail, who's to blame?
The driver.
She would blame the examiner, or the car, or the weather, or anything except for her bad driving skills.
Self-serving bias, for those of you who have never heard of it or don't know what it is, the definition of it is when your thoughts are distorted by the need to maintain and enhance self-esteem. For example, whenever you have something good happen to you, you usually attribute that to your own actions or something that you have done to cause that to happen. On the flip side, when something bad happens to you, you attribute that to something that wasn't your fault. It was, you blame it on someone else, something else, some outside force, could be anything. And that's really what self-serving bias is. You're trying to find an excuse to save your own self-esteem and your own face and your own head to figure out what happened. And a lot of people do this and don't realize it.
The definition of self-serving bias to me would be positive things happening because of who you are and what you do, and like negative things happening because of someone else. Like you put all of the blame of something bad that happened on not owning up to what you did, but blaming it on somebody else.
Self-serving biases allows a person to protect their self-esteem. And the way it works is if there is a positive outcome, then the person takes the credit for it. However, if there's a negative outcome, then the person blames it on some external force, meaning they do not take responsibility for their part in it. So either way, their self-esteem is preserved. Although sometimes Self-serving biases mean avoiding personal responsibility. Other times, self-serving biases can be somewhat of an unconscious defense mechanism to save the self-esteem.